What's going on, guys? Antonio here. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up for me, and let's get into it. All right, so we have heard from the man himself, Joe Rogan. He done sit this thing and he done out on he's on X. I keep wanting to say Twitter, but it's not Twitter anymore, it's X. And now Joe Rogan was one of the comedians that didn't really get the full brunt of Katt's wrath, but he did get mentioned. It's like it's what they say that he caught a stray, because like Chris Tucker, he didn't spend a lot of time talking about Chris Tucker, but then he made that Epstein Island Chris Tucker line, so it was like it was one shot, but it was a powerful shot. And then Shannon asked Katt Williams, how he felt about Joe Rogan had he not ever been on the podcast and all this. Because Joe has a lot of comedians. I mean, Joe's a comedian. He has other comedians on his podcast. But in the entire history of the Joe Rogan podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience, he's never been on, which I do think is odd because, yes, Joe talks about Katt Williams. I've heard him. There's all these clips of him talking about different things and with Katt, and they've been positive, especially like when he has somebody like Joey Diaz on. They be like, "Oh man, Katt's crazy. He does this." They think he's funny, but he's never been a guest. So maybe that's about to change. But Katt, when he was talking to Shannon Sharpe on the Club Shay Shay podcast, he said, he said Joe don't want me on there. Joe got 6 comedians that ain't never been funny that he wants to push out. And, Joe has his boys. Joe has his boys like Joey Diaz. And I think Joey Diaz is funny to me. Especially, I love listening to Joey Diaz tell his stories. The main one that I see people saying isn't that funny is, what's the guy, Brendan Schaub. He gets boy, they be going in on him. There are whole YouTube videos just talking about why does Joe Rogan keep having Brendan, but he likes Brendan. He's a decent guest, but I gotta be honest, I watched him a couple times, and sometimes when he has Brendan on, I say, okay, well, I'm skipping that episode. I've watched his solo podcast as well. I know he has someone else he does the podcast with, but I've watched his YouTube clips and stuff. And Brendan seems to be the one that gets a lot of the ire and that he doesn't deserve to be on Joe Rogan. Obviously Ari Shaffir, who I've been watching for years. But I mean, yeah, he has a couple of guys that he continues. Like I said, my favorite, I think, is Joey Diaz. I love Joey Diaz when he's a guest on there. Cuban guy sounds like a mobster. You can't go wrong with that. But, Joe tweeted this out just a few hours ago. So, this is pretty fresh. It's only a few hours old. And, he said, I love Katt. He's one of my favorite comics and I'd love to have him on. We talk about him all the time. If he's down, I'll make it happen. I think that's great. I would love to see Joe Rogan and Katt Williams sit down. Like I said, he talked to the Shannon Sharpe podcast was like almost 3 hours long. It was Joe be doing them long broadcasts because he did a couple of epic broadcasts with Dave Chappelle, but him and Dave are real cool. He did a real long one with Kevin Hart that I really liked. He had a great conversation with Jamie Foxx a few years ago, and that's where you get that clip of Jamie Foxx talking about Robert Downey Jr. doing blackface in Tropic Thunder, which some people's like, oh no, Robert Downey Jr. did black. Tropic Thunder was funny. I don't care. I loved it. You can't. Yeah, you can talk about whatever blackface is and all this kind of stuff. Tropic Thunder was funny, and you got to get out your feelings and just accept. I'm just a dude talking about a dude. There's another dude. Whatever he said, I was like, Robert Downey Jr. was hilarious in that role. That movie was funny. I don't want to. You got to get out your feelings with that mess. But some people, that cancel culture and all that kind of stuff, they try to go back and 8 years ago you did this or you said this or you told a joke or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. But I think as great as the interview was with Shannon Sharpe and Katt Williams, I would love for Katt Williams and Joe Rogan to sit down and just, fire a couple of them up and just chop it up for a couple of hours, man. I think that would be awesome. I would love to see it. I know a lot of the fans would love to see it. Shannon Sharpe's podcast with Katt Williams has done over 12 million in just under 48. It hadn't even been full 48 hours since the podcast came out. It's been shared everywhere. You don't think if he sat down with Joe Rogan has like 20 times the follow, and Shannon Sharpe's like the top podcast in his category, I think, but he's not doing the numbers that Joe Rogan is doing. And Joe Rogan's just on Spotify now. I mean, he's got the clips on YouTube, but Joe Rogan's the man. His numbers are undeniable. Matter of fact, if he was back on like Apple like he used to before he signed his exclusive deal, he was killing everybody. I mean, his numbers were extremely dominant. And so if Katt Williams went on there, it would do numbers. I think everybody knows that. But what do you guys think? In the comments, let me know. IkariPress.com for my book, Brand Way of the Gun. Follow me on Facebook, X. Follow me on Instagram and Threads. I'm all at Ikari Press on all that. SouthernMuffin.com for all you adult lovers out there. SouthernMuffin.com. I'm out.